What's up, everybody? Welcome to Metal Remains Backstage. I'm Manuel from Madrid. We have Carlos in New York. And joining us for this interview, we have a very special guest, Helle Bogdanova from Ignea.
Hi, everyone. Cheers from Oslo. I'm usually living in Ukraine, but today I'm at the metal conference and festival Inferno. And it's been great so far. How are you?
Oh, we are happy to have you here in our humble show. We've been talking a lot about this Ukrainian band Ignea in the last few weeks over here at Metal Remains. So it's not a surprise for our followers to see you here because we've been very excited listening to what is coming from Ignea in the next few weeks. But we're going to talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, I wanted to start asking you, since you are attending the conference, and I'm assuming you're also seeing the bands there at the Inferno Festival. How's the vibe there? How is it going so far?
It's actually the first day, like the first proper day. So it's also a conference where people from the metal industry just are networking together. So far it's been like meeting a lot of cool and important people, and it's been great. And in the evening, I'll go to Dark Funeral, Cannibal Corpse, Emperor. So very excited.
Awesome. A whole package right there.
Yes.
So that is the perfect introduction for the next question, which is, what have you been listening to these days?
To be honest, it's been so tough with all the schedule that, when I have a lot to think about and I cannot concentrate on music that I'm listening to, I really like to have very long instrumental black metal playlists just, in the background, because for me, it's like the best, background music, and it creates the atmosphere. So to be honest, I'm a Spotify user. So I just go to Spotify and I kick in all these playlists. They work for me, So when I do listen to something, I just want to spend my time and go in depth. But right now with album promotion, with the conference, it's just too complicated,
Right. I understand. On our part, we have been listening to this conceptual album that blends cinematic soundscapes with emotionally charged vocals, powerful guitar riffs, great scenes, and a vast richness of Eastern sounds titled Dreams of Land Unseen. I hope you have listened to that.
You must be familiar with it.
Yeah. Your brand new album that's coming out on April 28th via Napalm Records. We're going to dive into some of its themes, but we wanted to know, how aware are you of the big hype in the metal community around its release?
I'm also very excited for people to hear it, because so far we released only 2 singles, and although they are somewhat representing our sound and the album as well, but the album is very diverse. So that's why I'm so interested in people to see other aspects, maybe other atmosphere, what other songs have. And of course, we have some existing fans who are very excited, and they already just want to grab a copy, or they are pre-ordering it or whatever. But really, because maybe it's also the first album with Napalm Records, of course, more people are discovering us. And I'm really glad about it, that people, regardless of all the overcrowded industry, they still have time to discover new bands, and they're open-minded. I really value it in the metal community.
I wanted to add something that happened to me quite recently. I am a huge Ignea fan. I'm not ashamed of saying it in an interview. Some people might, but I'm not a professional interviewer, so who cares? I started listening to your band like 4 weeks ago, so it's a very recent thing. But I've dived through all of your discography. I can't believe I have been missing out on Ignea all this time, because even though you're a band that's being talked about very recently by many people, you are not a new band. You've been out there since almost 10 years ago. So it's something that's very funny to me that we review albums weekly, And it's until now that I got to listen to your work, and I'm very happy about it.
But it's better late than never,
Yeah.
you know? So.
Definitely.
And just to give you an idea, I have probably listened to the album, thanks to Napalm for the promo, around maybe 8-9 times. But my friend Manuel here, I'm sure he has been spinning that album for at least
I stopped
25
counting.
times.
I stopped counting after 30 times because it's not usual. That's not something that we usually do. We receive albums for review, and we listen to them maybe 5 times before we are ready to provide an overall thoughts about it. But this is something I've been consuming mostly like a drug on a daily basis. I wake up to it. I go to sleep to it. My wife knows all the songs just by listening while I'm listening to them. So yeah, you have a big fan right here.
Sign. It's a good sign that it's not a boring album.
No.
You know, I'm very glad.
It isn't. Not at all.
It isn't. But yeah,
not at all.
Please, Carlos, continue. I didn't want it to interrupt your flow.
Yeah, the album opens up with a sick intro to Dunes, your latest single. We enjoy the video for it, the trademark of our weekly podcast that everyone should check out. We did a short summary for that video, and it reads like this: band is trying to shoot 2 videos at the same time, but the cameraman keeps bullying them while their singer is walking through the woods, and suddenly she starts to float. Can you comment on what's going on that video?
Oh, it's interesting because for this video, we worked with with friends from Ukraine who do other videos for us in the past. And you never know what to expect with them. So, I mean, I just had a task for them to make a video like combining a desert and Carpathian mountains, because this is what the song is about. And we just found a studio in Kiev with a lot of sand in it, you know, and I thought, okay, we will film, you know, the part of the desert there, because, I mean, with all the war going on, it's hard to film outside because all the sand and parts of lands remaining the desert there are on occupied territories, so we cannot film there. So, and they came in and they said, okay, but it doesn't really look like a desert, so we should make something else. And this is why they decided to create this atmosphere of like filming how a video in a sand could be filmed, and all the rest of the stuff, you know, like interfering with musicians playing, or even me flying. We haven't seen it
floating
until the video came out. And this is always this thing with these guys. And the thing is, you watch the video, what the hell is happening? But still the video has a beautiful picture. And because something is always happening in this video, people keep watching it and then rewatching it. So all in all, like, every person can find something for themselves in this video, because there are people who just want to see how the band is playing. We've got the band is playing, you know, people who like seeing nature. We've got nature, you know, and all the things. So that's why I'm very happy how this video turned out, even though I understand it's more experimental, you know, but...
You know what? It reminds me.
It's a great video.
It reminds me of the MTV videos of the 90s. It has like that grungy vibe, especially in the section in which you are in current days. There's also the classic times, which is completely different. And that view of you in the forest merging with the trees, that's something hard to miss.
Yeah. I mean, even I enjoy rewatching this video, and I always find like some new things in there. So yeah, you can also check out our previous videos for Gin Slammer and Disenchantment and Queen Dies, and those were made by the same guys.
Okay, so
great.
Everybody listen up.
Them out.
You should check them out.
Yeah. A song that hasn't been released yet but caught our attention is To No One I Owe, which starts with the soft sounds of nighttime, and then your voice comes a cappella. Unfortunately, we didn't receive the lyrics for it, but from what we gather, it's a song about independence, not slowing down during the journey. It also has a section in Ukrainian. So what can you tell us about it?
The album is about the Ukrainian traveler of the 20th century, Sofia Yablonska. And this song is just about once she traveled to different places, she adapted with the local culture a lot. And people asked her that maybe she could stay, to live in their country, live with them. But because she was, a passionate traveler, she always moved on. And that's why it's like, this is a song about a life of a vagabond. And that's it, and because she was Ukrainian, I also decided to have some part of the Ukrainian lyrics, which is also interesting. On this album, we have some Middle Eastern tunes. That is something that we always did in the past. And because Yablonska traveled to Arabic countries like Morocco and stuff, and this song, it musically, it's a combination of traditional Hutsul song, and Hutsuls are people who are living in the mountains, in the Carpathian Mountains in Ukraine. And their traditional sound, although they are far away from Middle East, but it's very close to Middle Eastern tunes. And this is where we also wanted to play, just a little bit to show that the sound is similar.
Yeah, it's something that the culture share, and it's very different for us, more in the Western part. And let's not talk about Latin America, where we come from. It has nothing to do with what we are accustomed. So that's very enriching, feeling all those different sounds and the journey in which we're about to embark while listening to the record, which I love the way that it is sectioned specifically to each culture which is representing. So it's very nice. Moving on to the later part of the album, I love the way that on the second to last song, at the end of it, you listen to some waves, like if you're taking a ship to go to Japan, and then you hear the Japanese sounds. That's something that it's subtle. Yeah. Most people might not realize it, but this album has a lot of work in production that enriches the whole experience on a very different level of what we usually hear.
Yeah, the ambience is very important in this work. We can notice that, and it creates this, sense of you are going from one place to another on every song.
Yeah, this is what we wanted to actually achieve on this album. And storytelling has become a huge part of what we do in Ignea. I mean, there is a story behind every album, every song. And here it's even more, because we are literally taking people on a journey. And I sometimes think of our music as a soundtrack to the stories that we're telling. And when you're having a soundtrack, you want to have sounds that are not music really, but they add more to the atmosphere.
It's a bit of ASMR as well. There in another of the songs you hear that, and it's something very unexpected, but that I appreciate a lot.
Yeah, to be honest with you, the first time I started to listen to the album, I have feelings like I was listening to music from Gianni, the Greek composer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then when that riff came in, oh God, I closed my eyes and started doing this. It was a very creamy, delicious moment. So yeah, it's inspiring. You have stated in previous interviews that Dreams of Lands Unseen has been inspired by the life of Sofia Yablonska, of the first female travel photographers of the last century, as well as a writer. Much has advanced in society since Sofia's days, but much has unfortunately remained the same. Which aspects of Sofia's life are the ones that you identify the most with?
We have really a lot in common with her in terms of attitude to life and, wisdom and the will to travel. I am a passionate traveler as well. And it's strange that she lived 100 years ago, and still she was a very progressive person of her time. And for example, if you take the song Incurable Disease, it's a song about her passion for the sea and the waves and ships, traveling by ships, like whatever. And this is something that I experience myself too. I really like going somewhere to the seaside and travel by sea. So it's like I even have like some kind of a marine tattoo sleeve. So I have like waves and
it's not
and
the
shells.
typical anchor.
Cool.
No. Maybe if I played some kind of a punk band, maybe yes, but no. Yeah, so she always had this when she was traveling. It's always you are balancing between the will to discover new places, but also you feel homesickness and you want to go back. And I relate to it so much, and I think a lot of bands relate to it as well. But because when you go on tour, you want to go further, but sometimes you feel that, oh, I would be so much better, in my apartment or whatever. So, I mean, we are totally different with her in terms of time and places where she went, but philosophically, I'm very close to her attitude.
Wow, awesome.
Well, maybe you can follow her route. You have plenty of time to follow her steps. Literally.
Yeah, but also I think one of the main differences is that she went to a lot of southern countries and Middle Eastern, meaning like Morocco, Bora Bora, Australia, New Zealand, and I'm pretty much a Nordic person. So now in Oslo, I feel like, I feel very good. So I think I would rather go to somewhere to Svalbard or Greenland, but it doesn't matter because
traveling is traveling. Wherever you go, you're going to learn new things and experience new life.
Oh yeah, and blending into new customs and new society, there's always a lot to learn from that.
Yeah.
Manuel and I have experience in our youth what it's like to live in a war-torn country, and we can begin to understand that you have been going through for over a year in Ukraine with the war. For people around the world unfamiliar with that sentiment, how has this affected your day-to-day life?
Well, in Ukraine, it really depends where you are located, because the closer to the front line, the more dangerous it is every day, more complicated. I'm from Kiev and the rest of the band as well, so the capital. And we had occupation in the suburbs of Kiev, and we have experienced massive missile attacks, blackouts when we had no electricity. And for example, when we filmed all the videos, like 3 videos in 2 months, those were filmed in the middle of the biggest blackouts and the biggest massive missile attacks. Still don't know how we made it, but we did it.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing that we are affected with right now is that men are not allowed out of the country because they can be mobilized to fight. And I mean, I'm the only girl in the band, and that's why it's very hard for us to arrange any touring. Maybe this situation is going to change in some time, but so far it's very hard and complicated. Other than that, I think that in over a year, we just learned our ways to, adapt and survive. Although I think it's a very bad thing to adapt to. But again, we just had to move on with our lives and try to do our things, not only like for our sake, but for the sake of the country as well. Because when people are fighting on the front line, we still have to keep the country running. And that is one of the reasons why, because I haven't left the country, I can be out anytime, like now. But I just feel that it's some kind of my small contribution, to fight in this war. And we've also been donating a big part of the merch sales and music sales and Patreon pledges to the Ukrainian army, to the volunteers, to victims of war. So we've been active in that since day one, even though like we're not holding guns, and fighting on the front line. But to be honest, like war is a horrible experience. And also we sometimes get asked, oh, maybe you could write an album about war or a song about war. But I think those words are said by people who never saw how horrible it is, because we don't want to romanticize war at all.
Right. We have seen how bands from Ukraine like White Word and 1914, they have plans to go out and tour, but those have to be canceled because they couldn't get the permits and the paperwork needed now to go out. of the country. So yeah, it's a very complicated situation.
Yeah. I mean, we are friends with these bands, so we were trying all together to find a solution. And we also have some festivals for this summer. We just hope that the situation changes until then. Last year we toured and we received all these permits, but the situation changed just a few weeks ago, mostly because of the other artists, or maybe, I don't know, people who just went out and didn't come back. So they broke the rules, and this is how it went. And it's horrible. We just hope that the situation changes, because we want to tour so badly, and we have such great festivals, including Leyendas del Rock this summer. So we really want to be out there.
Right.
I think that's the most important fight. Not only with guns you can create change, you can also spread a message, which in my opinion can be more powerful. I also saw the making of the videos that you posted on your YouTube channel that everybody should check out as well. And it's impressive how you are prepared to do it, even though the blackout might come, even if there's an air raid or stuff like that. So it adds another level to the challenges that musicians usually have only by doing their recordings and shootings. So we admire that a lot. And we just wanted to send this message to people. We love music. It's an integral part of our life, but there's nothing more important than peace and justice for everybody in the world. So we really hope that this situation in Ukraine comes to a stop and that you can continue to live your lives with normality.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Right. Moving into live shows, Manuel got very excited when we realized that you were announced for Leyendas del Rock in Spain next August. I know it's still early to have full certainty based on what we just discussed, but we really hope that you can make it safely so your Spanish fans enjoy your wonderful music.
Yeah, we would love to play there, because we played Barcelona and Madrid before several years ago, and those were one of the best shows. Yeah, we also played Zaragoza, I believe. So, I mean, we would love to be there, and I heard only good things about this festival, so I'm very excited.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I hope that, well, someday you guys can also make it here to the Americas and have the opportunity to see you live.
We really hope for 2024, maybe, because again, the touring for a European band to come to America, it's really very expensive and you have to plan it all in advance. But we have quite a lot of people listening to us in the US, so I would love to.
Yeah. Don't put any other album now. We want to leave that album live first.
Yeah. To be honest, we want this album to take some time to be out there and to tour with it properly. And also, because of all the circumstances, it's really hard to create something new right now. And we still enjoy ourselves, the songs that are just out there. So we will take some time.
And not only that, The Realms of Fire and Death is an awesome album. I started listening to it just by the impatience of waiting for the Dreams of Lands Unseen promo, but I also fell in love with it. You don't need to rush things. Your music is wonderful, and I think everybody needs to have the opportunity to watch that live. And Carlos, you only need to wait your turn. We're going to have Ignea here in Spain before they come to New York.
I'll be waiting patiently. For our final question, can you share with us one of your favorite backstage moments?
For me, I love everything backstage, and this is why we also filmed like making of, and I'm a huge fan of everything backstage. So when we're touring, to be honest, the biggest things that I cherish is like talking to other bands at the backstage, because these people can understand you more than anyone else. You can also discuss like your experience with the labels, with promoters, tips, or whatever. Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's just something that you just, it's the best. And even though sometimes, when you have long tours, it's not only rock and roll going on. So sometimes you just want to sit in the corner with some other bands and, I don't know, drink your tea or beers or whatever, and just have this chat, because when touring with other bands, you just become a small family for a short time. Yeah, so it's the best.
Yeah, so you heard it here, Backstage, it's the best, and I'm talking about Metal Remains Backstage. So, Helle, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope to meet you real soon here in Spain. I hope everything goes well for you and your band and everybody in Ukraine.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed this conversation a lot and hope to see you at Leyendas del Rock.
Awesome. Yeah. If you like this interview, like it and share it with your friends. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and follow Ignea for everything related to them. Dreams of Lands Unseen will be released on April 28th. Make sure to buy it and stream it to double support Ignea and don't miss any of their upcoming shows. But until then,
see you.
Stay metal!
Yeah, stay metal. Yeah.